Hi from Australia. Some of you might know me, but I'm guessing a lot of you don't. My name is John Prescott, and I'm a photographer and videographer currently living in the Gold Coast of Queensland, Australia. The reason why you're receiving this video is, look, I just wanted to take the time out to talk about my friend Phil Harms. Now, Phil has not asked me to do this video. In fact, he actually has no clue I even had the idea to make the video on his behalf. But look, as a good friend to Phil and his family, I just thought that the best way I could help them, aside from his GoFundMe page, is to use my skills as a videographer. So let me talk to you about my friend Phil. The first time I really remember Phil and Shelley was seeing them at a church dinner function in Orlando where their daughter Sophie was just a little baby. I can't explain what it was that night, but just a thought came to my mind. Well, my wife and I should be friends with them. But it actually didn't work out that way, as shortly after that event in Orlando, my family and I were going to move to Australia. But before that actually happened, Phil and I took our first missions trip together to Haiti with Brian Stout and Open Door Haiti. Phil eagerly volunteered on that trip to be my Sherpa for the trip, carrying a lot of my camera gear. And Phil and I quickly realized that we definitely had the same warped sense of humor. I almost feel sorry for our leader, Brian Stout, as, look, Phil and I fed off of each other, coming up with our own outlandish ideas and phrases, trying to outdo each other. Brian, I hope you're watching this. You know we love you. But yeah, it was during that trip that I saw Phil's passion to help others and to bring the gospel to them. Fast forward a couple years, and I met up with Phil in the Philippines with Jody Crane of New Tribes Missions. It was like old times again with Phil, and once again, Phil was my Sherpa on that trip. It was an amazing trip in the jungle, helping install solar panels and other electronic equipment to bring the gospel to a remote region of the world. And this is what Phil wanted to do for the rest of his life. It was fulfilling, and it was satisfying, and most importantly, it was leading many to Christ and supporting them. Look, I know over the course of that year in 2011, he was talking to me a lot about how passionate he was to do missions full time, but he was also so worried about Shelley and the family supporting such a lifestyle change. And look, let me just stop here and say, hats off to you, Shelley, for supporting Phil and for being willing to trust him, and as well as trusting God with such a big decision. But yeah, it was towards the end of 2011 that Phil and Shelley trusted God for this. And they started making moves into full-time missionary work. Now, while most of you know Phil is giving and passionate in what he does, I'm not sure all of you know just how much so. So in 2012, I was actually having issues with my wife. It's a terribly long story, but the crux of it is my wife and daughter had returned to the United States while I was in Australia, and I was following about a month after, having packed up an entire house. I was supposed to go with Phil and Wycliffe Associates to the Central African Republic about a week after returning to the United States. And so I was actually staying with Phil and Shelley in their home while training with Wycliffe. Well, the morning of the 5th day back in the US, there was a knock on the door, and I was served with divorce papers. I think Shelley and Phil, they were in just as much shock as I was. And look, Phil later came to me that day and he said that I didn't have to go on this trip if I didn't want to. But frankly speaking, I just didn't see it as an option. And so I went. And Phil and I, we gained more incredible stories on that trip of just how good God is. Even hearing a hilarious story from an American missionary planted there about a monkey that was slowly going rancid. Now, I know that might not be funny to you, but look, this is just another moment that Phil and I share that is just amazing. And so upon returning to the United States, I had no place to live as I had expected to move in with my wife. And Phil and Shelley were kind enough to put me up for a time and lending me their car at times until I could get a bearing on my situation. And for that, look, I am terribly grateful. In 2014, I returned to Australia with my daughter, trying to reestablish my business. And by this time, Phil's work and responsibility as a full-time missionary expand, even taking him and his family to Indonesia for many years. During this time, as I was really trying to get back on my feet, and Phil, he would always put my name forward for these missionary trips, actually providing paid work for me to travel to Papua New Guinea, Indonesia several times, and I even managed to go to Nepal with my daughter delivering Bibles to a remote region. Look, again, I am terribly grateful for these opportunities. It's been so rewarding, and it's helped me and my business. Phil and his family have been very gracious and very giving to me, and I'm lucky to have friends like them. But he's also been a soldier and a servant for the kingdom of God. And with that has come a tremendous amount of joy and also a tremendous amount of heartache. As a lot of you know, Phil has stage 4 cancer right now and is going through some treatments to try and prolong his life. Look, I'll be honest, I don't know why God has allowed this to happen, but I do believe wholeheartedly that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And so I've watched Phil and his family fulfill God's purpose over the years. This cancer battle that Phil's up against, look, I don't know what that purpose is. And I don't think we're gonna fully understand it this side of heaven. But look, I just wanted to reach out to all the people that know Phil, or at least have maybe even heard of him, and tell you what he's done, not just for me, but also for the kingdom of God. And truth be told, Phil's in a tough position as he goes through chemotherapy. I'm sure the last thing that he wants to do at this time is to even start a fundraiser, asking friends and family for money to help pay some bills. You know, it's not like he's laying on the couch eating bonbons, you know, I'm sure he would love to, but that is definitely not the situation. So I've taken it upon myself, and I'm going to try and give him a boost. So look, let's look at the reality of the situation. Phil and his family have set a goal of $25,000 with the GoFundMe. This is not even half year's salary for most people. And look, I know a lot of charities and churches, and who knows, they ask for money. But I was reminded in Luke 12 just this morning, reading the parable of the rich fool, where Jesus spoke about a man who showed more interest in his abundance of possessions and having an easy life. Having gone to all these places with Phil, we've seen what it's like to have nothing. And in fact, in ways I'm envious and I'm amazed at how content these people are that I've encountered. And for me, I live my life knowing the only thing that I can take with me after this life are the people that I reach. Look, that doesn't mean don't save for later. And that doesn't mean don't enjoy this life. But in this circumstance, what this means for me is a small self-sacrifice for Phil and his family. It's going to be peace of mind for them while they go through this season. Look, they don't want to be worrying about money right now. And so all I would ask is, what is that peace of mind worth to you? If you've wanted to give, but somehow you haven't pulled the card out yet, well, maybe now's the time. And look, if you've already given, well, do it again. I mean, look, all joking aside, I just know that if I were in this position, I'd likely feel all alone, wondering if anyone really cared about me. And look, I have friends that say they'll do things, but you know, sometimes you never know. It's always someone's actions that shows me what's really in their heart. So look, right below on this screen is the link for Phil's GoFundMe page. and the link is also in the description. And if you think you know someone that might want to hear this story, look, pass this video on to them, please. So thank you for listening. And I'm believing that in no time, with a little bit of sacrifice and some action, we can actually reach this goal and give the Harms family some much needed relief.